Crave was conceived as a way to deliver our strong educational mission and our membership's desire for their continued learning. Through the Crave series, our chapter will deliver webinars and virtual meetings to deliver timely and relevant topics that are affecting our industry today.
It's about the effort that we expend to connect with people. But you have an opportunity to see people, you have an opportunity to chat with people. We may not have an opportunity to have appetizers and share a drink with each other, but we stay connected, and that's really the most important thing.
Being able to work together and learn together in a new format, a new environment, really helped us take those pre-existing relationships and friendships that I had to another level.
CoreNet has taken the leadership in these kinds of conversations for years and years, and so we're delighted to have this long-term relationship with CoreNet.
I found the CoreNet to be a great community of dedicated real estate professionals, and what it means to me is it gives me a wider network of people with whom to share ideas, to derive the best learnings, to test and experiment with things that I'm working on.
This program is all about personal growth and becoming the leader that you want to be.
CoreNet has always led the way when it comes to supporting the professional development of our members. Our roundtable discussions, our education workshops, and our professional development programs are just part of what makes CoreNet so valuable to our members. It was critical for us to find a way to still be able to facilitate all of this. Crave has provided us the platform to be just as effective and to still provide that value to our members in a virtual environment.
CoreNet not only provides a platform for different groups to come together regardless where you come from in terms of organization, but really help each member to feel like they belong in this organization.
We have a diverse membership base, and you will find that members come from all walks of life and from all over the world. However, it's still an area of focus for us to improve upon and to embrace equity, inclusion, and diversity through increasing awareness and taking action, as we know this will lead to more success for the organization and for our members.
Good afternoon, all, and welcome to our CRAVE program through the lens of innovation, Olympus Corporation of the Americas. My name is Maureen Rystrom. I am the Vice President of Marketing and a partner at J. Calnan and Associates, and I also have the privilege of serving on CoreNet Global New England Chapter's Executive Committee as your President-elect. Before we jump into the program, I just have a couple of brief CoreNet announcements. So upcoming events, the Community Reinvestment and the Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity Committees are pleased to partner with the Boys and Girls Club of Boston for a virtual event with high school students where we'll introduce them to the CRE industry. That event is July 29th from 3:30 to 4:30, and we'll have some more information sent out about that. So be on the lookout. We also want you guys to join the conversation. Those of you who are active within our community know that we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, and we're on Twitter. So we encourage you to not only follow us and interact, but use our platform as a resource to share your information, job openings, project updates, new hires, promotions, awards, and other announcements. It's very easy. All you have to do is email Stephen Smith, who is our community social media liaison. His information is there. We would not have such a successful and engaged chapter without the support of our corporate partners, who are all listed here. Thank you so much for your for everything that you do for the chapter. We also would not be able to provide such great programming and events without the support of our sponsors. First, our Platinum, which are listed here, and then our Gold and our Silver listed below in the text. So before we jump into the program, we want you guys to make sure that if you have a question, that you are using the Q&A function and not the chat. I will do my very best to monitor that and get to as many questions as possible before the time is up. So, and now on to the program. So as the 100-year anniversary approached, precision technology leaders Olympus sought to consolidate their Littleton, Southborough, and Waltham locations into one highly collaborative, highly advanced headquarters in the town of Westborough. Today we'll learn about the project mission, the business case, and the future of Olympus, and then we'll follow a photo tour of the beautiful new space. Leading the charge here for us will be Steve Worley. As the Olympus Corporation's global corporate real estate lead, Steve is responsible for setting the strategic direction and executing on Olympus's real estate needs on a global scale. Also joining us is Marie Fitzgerald. Marie is a principal and executive leader of SMMA, leading the interior design practice while also serving on the board of directors for the firm. And then finally joining us is Jonathan Marin. So as a senior associate and project manager at SMMA, Jonathan provides a comprehensive approach to the direction and controls of each one of his projects. I'll now turn it over to Stephen.
Thanks for the lovely intro. Nice to be with you all here today. I've probably given hundreds of presentations on this project to folks kind of within our Olympus family, but excited to talk a little bit about this today with the rest of the world. So I'll briefly go through today, who we are, what Olympus does. I know we have got a good bit of brand recognition, but we've got a bit of a unique situation with Olympus here. And then we will go through the planning of the project, the execution of the project. And as Maureen mentioned, I'll hand it over to the SMMA team to give more of a virtual tour and actually go through the building. So as I mentioned, Olympus is a global company. Some of you might be scratching your heads as you look at this, as we are most well known for our camera business. However, we did divest the camera business back in 2020 as we refocus our business to be a global leader in the medtech space. So we really have three main pillars of our business: endoscopic solutions, therapeutic solutions, and scientific. You can see over here on the right kind of how that breaks down for both revenues and the small portion that was our camera business prior to divestiture. We are a global company. We're based out of Tokyo, Japan. We've got about 35,000 employees globally in 39 regions. And I did add the small chart here down at the bottom right. While my position is a global position, I do reside here in the United States. So we are always quite proud to communicate that North America makes up about a third of our profits as a global company. We're also a business that's a technology-driven business and a technology-driven company. We've been awarded Global Innovator Awards across the globe for many years, a number of awards for innovative product design, and we've got over 20,000 patents across our portfolio. As Maureen mentioned, we are a 100-year-old company. I condensed this timeline down to be a very short 2 slides, but we do have a full timeline of our company history on our website. As you can see, our business was founded on microscopes in the early 1900s. At that time, Germany was really the world leader in microscopy, but it was very difficult and very expensive to bring microscopes into Japan. And because of that, Olympus was formed. Shortly after, we started our consumer camera business. And then in the 1950s, we invented the world's first practical gastro camera and gastroendoscope. So really the medical business has been a core part of our portfolio for since the 1950s. 1959, you'll see one of our key products, the Olympus pen camera, is a bit of an icon in the camera world, and they are quite collectible these days. 1968, Olympus Corporations of the Americas was founded here in North America. And in 1987, we had our first big medical acquisition of KeyMed in the United Kingdom. Where things start to get a little more specifically related to this project we're talking about today is 2008, the merger with Gyrus. Gyrus was our biggest medical acquisition at the time. And after that acquisition, we formed OSTI, the Olympus Surgical Technologies of Europe, and OSTA, the Olympus Surgical Technologies of America. So for some of you in the Metro West region, that little snippet there below the 2012 timeframe is our old office in Southborough, Massachusetts, and one of the offices that was consolidated as part of this project. 2017 brought the acquisition of Imagery Medical. They were located in Littleton, Mass, and they were brought on board to really bolster our integrated operating room systems. This business and this location were also part of the new Westboro office. 2018 was really a critical year for us. That was the announcement of our new corporate philosophy and really an outward facing commitment telling the world we are dedicated to becoming a global medtech company. 2019 was our 100-year anniversary. And then 2021, just the past few months in March, we opened up our new medical headquarters building in Westboro. So a little bit into the details about the background and the planning, how this project came to be. As I mentioned, this kind of formed out of a number of acquisitions over the past 10 to 15 years. But the result was we had multiple buildings really within 10 to 20 miles of each other with quite a large employee population base. Most of these facilities were inadequate either in size or functionality. They didn't have great customer facing spaces. So as we were trying to kind of rebrand ourselves and kind of announce to the world that we were a medical device company, our facilities really didn't show what we were trying to convey. So this new project was born out of these requirements. I know I don't need to explain to anybody on this call, being the New England region, why Boston is important. But what you need to understand is being a global company and being based out of Tokyo, projects of this magnitude must be approved by our global board in Japan. So this slide was actually pulled from the global approval presentation in Tokyo to help the senior leaders in Japan understand why Boston or Greater Metro West was really the right location for a new innovative medical hub. Obviously the big items here, kind of in that bottom bullet point are, healthcare, technology, biotechnology. There's a great population of potential employees and a lot of investment in education in this area. So I thought it was important to really let you all know that, Boston's not just important in the Northeast of the United States, but it's also a key investment location for global companies and companies looking to develop in the medtech space. So project goals, as I mentioned, this building is unique in that it's both customer faced and employee faced. So we've got both R&D technology happening here, development of new products, but it's also a sales and marketing facility. So this facility, we bring in doctors, medical service providers, all sorts of folks. So it needed to be a wonderful representation of our brand and a great space to entertain external potential clients, but also a space that would really capture the essence of what Olympus is and help our employees along their journey. And out of this project scope or goal came our vision statement. So this was really important for us. This was really the basis for guiding principles of the project. I won't read through this here. It's a bit cumbersome, but really the goal was to connect stakeholders across the globe. Being a global company, that's critically important. Dynamic ways of working, as I mentioned, the older facilities that we were coming from really lacked collaborative spaces and technologies to let our employees do their best work. Supporting the journey of the employees, always super important with projects of this nature, and the branding, which I touched on as well. So this was presented at the beginning of all of our project meetings and also all of our town hall and project updates for employees. And with that, we will show a brief video here and a bit of an introduction to our Westboro project.
Hello everyone. Pursuing our aspirations to become a global leading medtech company has been an exciting journey, and our transformation is well underway. A remarkable milestone has been the completion of our new Westboro campus that will serve us as the headquarters for both our U.S. medical business and our Global Therapeutic Solutions division. This new campus will serve as a place where we live our core values every day and continue to fulfill our purpose of making people's lives healthier, safer, and more fulfilling. Furthermore, it is a symbol of our solid commitment to our employees, customers, and the community. Here we will bring together multiple offices, businesses, and colleagues into one location, enhancing collaboration and knowledge sharing. In addition, we'll be able to connect the stakeholders from around the world, explore new ways to serve customers' needs, and reinforce our presence in the Boston area. A region known for its strong medical presence and highly educated and a diverse talent pool. I think you will agree that this is an exciting new beginning filled with opportunities. For those colleagues who will work at the Westboro facility, I wish you a warm welcome to your new home. Where I hope you will find a great success and prosperity. Congratulations.
Thank you. So that was Yaz Takeuchi, our global CEO in Tokyo. Kind of a funny story about this video. This video was shared both internally and externally, but like many other videos, it was shared on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these wonderful places these days. But after it was shared, we were kind of made aware that this was Mr. Takeuchi's first time being shared speaking on LinkedIn and social media. So there was a small panic from the Tokyo communications team, but it was extremely well received, both from internal employees and external folks who had worked on this project. For those who are a little bit more in the day-to-day project of Westboro, you often heard or dealt with needing Japan approval for large scope changes, and things kind of went off into the sunset waiting for return. So for a lot of those folks who worked on this project every day, it was really exciting for them to see reinforcement of how important this project was to global leadership in Japan as well. So hopefully you enjoyed that brief video. Digging into the details of this building here a little bit, this is a 150,000 square foot facility solely occupied by Olympus. And I mention that because all of the buildings that were consolidated into this facility were all shared service buildings. So none of these facilities had their own cafeteria, fitness center, any of those types of things. They were in multiple broken off corridors with really a lack of shared service and even shared parking lots. This building is our America's medical headquarters and also the world headquarters for our therapeutic division. That's a really important thing because this therapeutic division that's headquartered here in the Boston area is the first Olympus division to ever be headquartered outside of Japan. So this was a really big project for us, both regionally and globally. There was a number of business units here. We've got our corporate entity, we've got therapeutic, endoscopic, surgical technologies, and our medical sales group all in this building. Sorry for the dump of acronyms here. We've got quite a few acronyms within our company, as I'm sure many of you do as well. But the thing to highlight here is with all of those different business units, it meant there was a lot of stakeholders, which could be difficult to manage at times. But really, I got to know quite a number of folks that I wouldn't have been able to work with otherwise. From a building capability or functionality standpoint, we've got a cafeteria, a fitness center, and a daycare. And then on the technical side of things, this building actually has a fully operational operating room with integrated technologies. We have a wet lab that allows us to do product training and product demos for things like endoscopes, ear, nose, and throat tools, and a number of other items. We've got our customer solutions group, or CSG, which is the former ImageStream business. They have a very technical lab. It's more of a computer lab. And then our surgical business has an R&D lab in this building. And that's a little bit more of kind of the tangible mechanical surgical products that you would see in an operating room. And these renderings here are really the original building concept renderings created by our friends at SMMA. So this is what our project schedule looked like. Site selection happened in 2018, although the original concept for the project really started in 2015. So quite a long road to really get to our move-in date here in March of this year. The only interesting point that I will highlight here is you'll see April 2020 in the middle of the screen. We actually transitioned one of our buildings into a temporary space. We had a let's say less than wonderful relationship with the landlord. Our lease was coming to term, and the price of that lease was going to go up exponentially. As you will all recall, April 2020 also coincided with kind of the beginning of the lockdowns. So we had a situation where we transitioned one of our offices into a temporary space, and essentially none of those employees ever walked into that space. They never unpacked their items, none of it. The good news there is we did see a pretty good cost savings. So while it was quite the logistical headache, we did see a pretty good impact of this temporary move from a P&L standpoint. So we'll jump into the floor plan a little bit here. This is a 4-story building. The first floor is really all of your shared services. So the gray section kind of in the bottom center is our main entrance. As you work your way around to the left, we have our canteen or our lunchroom. We've got a large conference area for trainings or town halls. The green section up in the top left is our fitness center, the kitchen and servery. And then in the back of the house here, some of the light gray, we have a machine shop that does production just for R&D support. So there's no products or finished products that are made here in Westboro, but we do create parts and pieces for R&D purposes. We've got a small shipping and receiving dock, and then our daycare and preschool here is over on the right. The second floor is really where all the technical work happens. So starting kind of from that main corridor in the center bottom of your screen where you see that hatched open area, we've got an open mezzanine down to the main lobby, and we'll show you some pictures of that later. But this is really our main entertaining space for bringing in doctors and healthcare providers. So we've got a break area, kitchenette here. The yellow space just down to the right is our training rooms where we can do product training. And then as you move over to the left of that hatched area, the first room to the right is our operating room. So this operating room is fully integrated with all of Olympus's technologies. One of the most notable products that is in this operating room is our Med Presence system. Med Presence has been a great tool for us this past year with COVID. To really simplify it, think of it as Zoom for your operating room. So we are able to use a number of our products to do live video in the operating room, which allows the healthcare providers to get some of the doctors and technicians actually outside of the room. So as the hospitals were trying to minimize the number of people in the operating room due to the COVID pandemic, we were able to support them with this technology. Another use case would be, if you had a surgery that was extremely complicated and maybe you were somewhere, outside of Boston, let's just say, New Hampshire or Maine, and they needed to bring in a specialist from Boston, we could actually get specialists, while they're in the helicopter or the airplane on the way to your hospital. They can log into that camera system on their iPad or iPhone and communicate directly with the surgeons in the operating room. It also allows them to manipulate the cameras in the room, mark up the camera images on a large 4K 3D TV in the operating room, and really have live communications as the operation is happening. And all of that is demoed and in place here in our mock operating room here in Westboro. The next lab to the left is what we call our wet lab. So we have full cadaver capabilities here. We can bring cadavers into the building, demo all of our surgical products in place. And then we have a full reprocessing room where we can take dirty surgical products, clean them so they're ready for reuse, all right here in the building. So while you drive down Route 9 and see our new building here, what looks to be a typical office building really has some interesting and super technical activities happening inside. So we work our way around. We've got our engineering lab. That's where I talked about our folks that came down from Littleton, the former ImageStream team. And then as we wrap around the top, that's our surgical technology R&D lab. The third and fourth floor are primarily the same, mostly open office. We've got some really great collaborative spaces here, things we never had in our old offices. I won't talk too much about those. I'll let the SMA team dig into that as we move towards the virtual tour. Technology, really for the employees, not talking about an R&D perspective, was really one of the main focuses. And this was, a big focus really through the pandemic as well, as we all shifted to working from home. Our chief administrative officer said many times, with this new building and really with all of our portfolio, we want everybody to have the same exact experience, whether they're working from home, they're a field employee, they're working in a brand new office, or an older office. We've all gotten so accustomed to Zoom or Teams or Skype or whatever it may be, really just sitting down at your computer and clicking a button and being in a meeting. So we transitioned, this Teams technology into all of our conference rooms throughout the project. We've got wireless connectivity. We've got videos in all of our rooms. Our boardroom actually has two 96-inch monitors. So while we're having meetings across the globe, one of those monitors can be used for kind of that tiled face view that you can see in the top left photo there. And then the other 96-inch screen would be for your presentation. We've got swivel cameras that turn to the presenter, all sorts of really awesome technology when it comes to conference rooms. We also went with some Surface Hubs. So we've got mobile screens and video conferencing capabilities, which you can see over here on the right. Essentially a giant Surface Hub or an iPad type technology that can be moved into R&D labs. So we can have communication through our other R&D facilities in Tennessee, Minnesota, or California, really to open up that collaboration and allow video conferencing and video meetings to happen, not just in a traditional conference room. So with that, I will hand it over to Jonathan Marin and Marie Fitzgerald to take you through the tour here and talk a little bit more about the design of the building.
Thanks, Steve. I just wanted to start by kind of expressing how proud we've been to be on this journey with Olympus. one of the things that became very quickly apparent to us when we started working on this project is because of everything that Steve just spoke about, this this started as an office building and it didn't end that way. And everywhere in between, what we really came to understand is that Olympus, much in parallel to their business, which has really become about taking things and bringing them together. And so historically, Olympus has been about visualization, and now we're breaking the fourth wall of visualization in the medical field, which is very much what Steve was speaking to. This building is taking things that really weren't together at all, bringing them together, integrating them together, and then trying to bring them to the next level and to elevate them, much like Olympus is in their business. So we thought there was a great parallel there. And one of the really important things was to actually start from the outside and to say, how do we project Olympus's brand, Olympus's image from the outside, and then carry that in through the building? So it starts really at the street with the branding signage, and it starts with the building signage and its visibility from both Route 9 and from 495. But if we go to the next slide, what we can see is as we even get to the main entrance, there was a real desire here to have a very transparent entry that could really showcase for not just the employees, who are obviously incredibly important, but also for the doctors, for the technicians, for the nurses, for all the folks that are coming to visit the building, to really understand what it is that Olympus is about and how they are absolutely focused on really pushing how we do medicine forward and helping us all evolve and making people's lives healthier, safer, and more fulfilling. So as we move into the building, I'm going to turn this over to Marie to talk about some of the interior elements that carry inside that are part of the front.
Thanks, Jonathan. So as we've all said, the main lobby is pretty much customer and visitor facing. A lot of the employees will be entering from the side, but as Steve said, and as it was said in the video, you know, Olympus messaging and the brand, the core values are very, very important to them globally. So we made sure they were front and center for, you know, a lot of this is customers. And as Jonathan said, clearly the employees know that. We also created this art feature, which is inspired by the yellow line in the Olympus logo. And that represents opto digital technology. And we sort of started with that as a overarching concept in the design. So the lighting that goes up, and it really connects you to that R&D in that medical space, which is what the heart of this building is. You can see in the lower right-hand photo, that is a view looking towards those customer training areas, and that breakout area for them with the mock OR is behind it. Next. So the SMMA team also included our environmental graphic designers. We worked closely with the Olympus marketing team and basically helped them develop a new architectural branding direction, which is now being shared globally. Everything we did, though, went through the local marketing group that works with Steve, and then they had to send it off to Japan where it had to be blessed. So everything was truly scrutinized. But this shows that sort of that level of texture and layering and patterns that carried throughout the facility. Next. And it still blows my mind the amount of amenities that are offered to these Olympus employees, because we've had daycares in other projects that always get VE'd. So I was never convinced this was here to stay, but they put in this great daycare. And if you look on the slide on the right, the picture on the right, you can see through to the playground, which is adjacent to it. It has its own entry, and clearly there's a lot of regulations and security that goes along with this. So it is a fabulous amenity for this building. Next. So we took advantage of the extra ceiling height, the first two floors, because of the labs and the specialty spaces we were able to increase the ceiling heights. So we took that and used it to our advantage in the cafeteria space. We created many different seating zones. We, again, incorporated environmental graphics. Technology is throughout the space, and it should be used throughout the day, not just at breakfast and lunch. And it's just another great place for employees to go and work. Down the hall from, or behind this is that you saw on the floor plan, the training room. So those both have operable walls which move. So this can be used as an all hands meeting. And since most of the employees will be parking on that side of the building, they'll go by the fitness center and by the cafeteria on their way in. Next slide.
So I mentioned earlier that one of the things that we thought was really important was kind of the exterior image. So this is actually a shot from Route 9. So one of the things that we really wanted to make sure happened was, when you're on Route 9, you're coming eastbound, you're getting a great vista, you kind of come up a hill, and there's a tremendous view of the building. Just to give a sense of how prominent and important this facility is for Olympus and for, a lot of the reasons Steve talked about earlier. Keep going. Oh, went too far.
Sorry about that.
No worries. So when we started the project, there was kind of a little note about how there's a dry lab component to this. And we thought, oh, okay, we've done a lot of dry labs. What we didn't understand was, the range of labs that are actually in this building runs the full gamut. So it's everything from literally a full electronics lab that you would find in more of a software development function to, as Steve mentioned earlier, a full wet lab that would, kind of dwarf any kind of pharma application. That's kind of a unique thing. We do work obviously for pharma, we do work for med device, work for a lot of companies, and you will often find very extensive labs, but typically they kind of run along a certain gamut. This runs kind of the full range, and that became a great challenge for this building, and to make sure that all the systems we had in it could fully accommodate a lot of these functions coming together. And so during the course of the design, while obviously there was incredible attention paid to the look of it, to the experience, to how the employees were going to function there, this is a pretty complicated building technically, and it was a highly coordinated building. Let's flip to the next one, please.
Yeah, and I will say from an Olympus perspective, we're pretty good at understating how technical our spaces are. And we're not always great at communicating on the front end of the project what goes into some of these. So just to echo really what Jonathan said, it's a little bit of an issue for us on a global scale. So trying to really rein that in is one of my main focuses.
So this is what I'd call the crown jewel, right? So Steve mentioned earlier, this is the mock operating room. This is as close to a fully functional operating room as you can have without having a fully functional operating room. The glass panels that are all over the walls are made by Medic, a company in Germany. Those are actual glass panels that go in operating rooms. All of the booms that are hanging from the ceiling, all the different support structures are the same support structures that you have in operating rooms, down to the table. And as Steve mentioned, the purpose of this room is part demonstration, but also part training. It's being able to bring doctors and nurses and technicians in and to really help them learn how to use these systems that are changing surgical procedures. Because as Steve said, so much of what's happening here is, we're running parallel to what's happening in the world as a whole, which is that, the virtual environment is becoming an important part of business, and it's becoming an important part of medicine for the better, because it allows us to bring expertise that is not necessarily co-located together to really assist in the care of patients. And that's really the most important thing. And so we had to have a facility that could really mimic, whether you're in MGH or whether you're in Newton Wellesley or whether you're in Brigham, wherever you need to be, you needed to have a facility that could mimic that, so that it really was something that could demonstrate how the equipment functioned. Next slide, please. And I'm going to send it back to Marie to talk a little bit about the actual workspaces.
Yep. So back when we were beginning this project, and actually Olympus was out looking for a site, we also discovered that they didn't really have current workplace standards. So we were able to work with them to develop those new standards. And as Steve said, they were a little shy on collaborative spaces. So it was a great opportunity to, show them what was out there and to come up with some new sizes and add different program elements to this space. So, the amount of offices were limited, which is always a good thing. We added glass demountable fronts. We made the offices the same size as the huddle, so he had some flexibility in moving forward. And we put in pockets of collaborative spaces throughout the building. I think if you go to the next slide, it's that importance of giving people somewhere to work that's either outside the lab or outside of your workstation. So again, sprinkling different postures throughout the building. And the next slide is, so this is a typical cafe that's found on every floor. It's right off the elevator, and it becomes a hub of meeting, beverages, phone rooms, different types of space again. And since these are fairly large floor plates, we, again, that nod to the opto-digital technology, the lights going down the corridor helps kind of break up and define that major circulation. And the next slide.
I will say these orange wingback chairs are the hottest seat in the building. They're always full every time I come through. So this is a very popular area and very unique, very different from anything we've ever had.
And this is another angle of that same space, and it's showing the variety of the phone rooms, and also that Olympus brand using the true to life colors. So those are their colors, which I guess is a subtle way of saying I probably wouldn't have started with that palette, but we used it sparingly, and we used other finishes and textures as a backdrop to those bright colors.
Yeah, and there was a big differentiation, as Marie mentioned, with our global branding team. These true to life colors, the blue, green, and orange, are really a regional color scheme in the Americas. So there was a bit of a fight with that in Tokyo, but it was determined that, all of these brighter colors could be used in employee-facing spaces, while, the main lobby, really that blue and silver, that really clean kind of operating med tech look is what was to be used in our outward-facing spaces. So this building did actually drive some changes to our global facility branding standards, which was really exciting.
I think that's a good example of, a lot of what we're talking about here. And this building didn't exist anywhere in Olympus's portfolio before this. And so, what was both exciting and simultaneously terrifying about the project was so many of the moments in the project really were kind of breaking ground for Olympus to understand what it was that this really needed to be, because there was absolutely no roadmap to how this building was going to come together. And so, I think we all learned a lot, and very much so, both what to do and a few things what not to do. But it was a very exciting process because it really was breaking new ground for how Olympus looked at their facilities. And I always give Steve credit, because I think Steve has done a great job of really trying to push Olympus forward and to really bring vision to a lot of these things. And he's a great partner for us, because the hardest thing sometimes in these cases is when the client doesn't really know what they want, and it's incredibly helpful to have somebody to help drive and interpret that. So Steve's been a great partner for us.
Thanks, Jonathan. Yes, many calls in the middle of the night with Japan trying to convince them why neon green carpet was a good idea.
So we are, as I said in the beginning, really proud to be to be part of this journey with Olympus. We are very excited of how the project has come out, and we're so glad to be able to share it with you today. I'll leave it to Steve if he wants to add any last comments.
No, thanks. I think you really summed it up, and really can't understate how big of a step this was for us, both kind of in our journey of rebranding and our new corporate strategy, but really from a real estate and facilities standpoint as well. It's shifted the conversation. This has been a huge project around the globe. This was also the first real estate project that was really announced globally, internally to employees. So, I've done probably hundreds of presentations on this project all across the globe to people in, UK, Germany, Switzerland, China, Australia, Japan. This has really become kind of a new benchmark. So it's been really exciting. And to be honest with you, I had no idea that this would be such an impactful project when I started. So it's been kind of a fun journey for sure.
This project looks very beautiful. So congratulations to all of you guys. We do have, love to be able to get to if we have some time. Is around COVID. So how did COVID impact the workplace elements? And then there's that too that says expected challenges of COVID, the project and occupancy, and how did you stay nimble to accommodate?
Yeah, so this is obviously, one of the more popular questions of late. I would say from an overall building design standpoint and from a floor plan standpoint, there was actually not many changes. One of the things we did talk about throughout the process is really, after COVID, why will people come to work? And really it's for that collaboration, right? If somebody's going to sit down at their desk or their office in front of a computer for 8 hours, why would they get in their car and drive to do that? So kind of the initial concept of creating a large number of collaborative spaces, a very diverse type of collaborative spaces, and really some of the shared service functions, the daycare, the fitness center, these are all the type of things that are, reasons why people will come to work post-COVID. So, I like to think it's a little bit more than just coincidence, but really the design vision that Jonathan and Marie had for this building really just stood true kind of throughout COVID. There was a number of small details, kind of technical details that were changed due to COVID. Things like automatic door openers, you badge scan and the door opens for you. Automatic dispensers, for both sinks, soaps, all of those types of things. Lots of things that were reviewed. We didn't make any substantial changes to the HVAC system, but all of it was really thoroughly looked at top to bottom. But I would say, for the most part, if you weren't looking for it, had COVID never happened, the building would look substantially the same. So I think that's really just a testament to the design theory really, and kind of the concept of this building to start. From a logistics standpoint and an occupancy standpoint, there was a number of challenges. So this building officially opened on March 15th. As you're probably all aware, there was still quite a number of restrictions in place at that point. They've since, started rolling them back, but we moved everybody into a building with really no understanding of when they would actually go in. So this was a challenge, right? We had to somehow announce grand opening, we're here, but by the way, please don't show up. We had people, I was there the first day it opened. We had a number of critical employees. I'd say about 70 employees that work in, R&D spaces, the machine shop, things of that nature. But there was really people outside trying to get into the building and their badge access wasn't working because they weren't supposed to be there. So that was the challenge. It definitely presented, security challenges, and operational challenges, but for the most part, it went pretty smoothly. We did have to do kind of a coordinated unpacking effort. So we had about 4 weeks of scheduled signups for people to come in. Typical to other projects, we rented a number of crates, packing solutions, and we were kind of paying for those on a month-by-month basis. So, we brought people in. It was also an opportunity for them to see the building. We had very strict protocols. We also had contact tracers, and we use those in all of our manufacturing plants. So it's essentially just a little digital device you wear on a lanyard around your neck or clip onto your belt. And all that does is basically beep at you anytime you're within 6 feet of somebody for too long. And then that goes back to a database for us. So every single tracer has a name attached to it. And let's just say, Jonathan and I are working in the building, and tomorrow, Jonathan calls me and says, "Hey, Steve, I got COVID and I just found out." How would we figure out who was potentially in contact with him? And we could download that all from the system in about 15 minutes. It was a really quick procedure, and identify who was, high risk, low risk, who was Jonathan around for how long. To really contact all of the employees as necessary. So, that was one of the most difficult parts, was how do you manage and communicate that appropriately without causing panic, right? You don't want to send a mass email to 500 employees and say, "Hey guys, somebody had COVID in the building yesterday. Let us know if you were around them," right? So we could do very targeted, very specific communications and kind of manage that in a confidential manner as well. So that was how we kind of tackled that challenge. And all contractors, all employees, anybody who was in the building for any reason had one of those contact tracers. We were also doing temperature scans at all building entrances. We still are. And masks were required. That requirement will be relaxing soon, I believe, based on state regulations. But to this point, we are still doing our contact tracing tags and temperature checks in the building today.
Wow. Okay, the next question that we have here, it looks to be a lot of expansion room next to the building. Are there any talks of expanding? Has the pandemic altered these plans? And then the second piece of this, is there a large expectation to grow your employee base?
Yes. So when the building opened in March, along with it came a number of open job requisitions. So I don't know where we're at with it currently, but I know on March 15th, there was 70 open job postings for this building specifically. So, a pretty big impact for the town of Westboro. And we've got quite a few nice messages from them for that. They're very grateful. Our medical business, really with the new corporate strategy that was announced in 2019, is the focus of our company right now. We're putting a lot of effort into, how we grow this business and how we can better serve our customers. So yes, there is an open plot of land next door. We're hopeful that our business continues to grow quick enough that we can utilize that space. There was a number of design elements that were incorporated into this building to allow it to support an additional building next to it, would that happen. So, the cafeteria area, the daycare, the fitness center were all sized with a secondary building in mind, just in case. So, again, some great design forethought from the SMA team, putting us in really great position should we continue to grow as we're hoping to. Obviously, with the past year being such a huge challenge for all businesses as it's been, the plans have shifted maybe a little bit since the initial kind of inception of the project and potential expansion. But we are hopeful that the medical business continues to thrive and we can come out of the pandemic here really in better shape than ever.
And I think you may have answered this, but maybe elaborate a little bit more. But what is next for Olympus and this specific team in Boston following this building's success? I think you kind of touched on it, but.
Sure, yeah. So, we don't have any immediate kind of secondary projects in Boston. Really, the biggest thing right now is slowly getting all of our employees back in the building. So right now we're targeting September for more of a full return to work. We're not going to force employees to be in, 5 days a week, but we will be asking for more of a regular presence in the building. And that's, kind of yet to be determined, but getting people in the building and then starting to take in really the feedback, as we talked about this being such a new innovative building for Olympus as a whole, starting to get that feedback to see, is it as great as I think it is? Hopefully it is. And then we can kind of incorporate some of these new standards, and some of these new ways of doing work into some of our other projects. So, from a building standpoint, no immediate plans for any new buildings in Boston specifically, other than potentially expansion if the medical business continues to grow, but that's not definitive really at this point.
Okay, and I think we have time for one more question here. And this is, did you enter into any tax incentive agreements with the town of Westboro for the specific project?
Sorry, I got distracted there for a second as the Q&A thing popped up. I saw more questions coming. Could you state that again? I'm sorry.
It's an interesting program. So did you enter into any tax incentive agreements with Westboro for this project?
No specific tax incentive agreements in this building specifically. No.
Okay, I'll give people one more minute to throw a question in there. We did have a nice compliment to you, Stephen, about what an excellent speaker you are and very easy to listen to. So thank you. Same for Jonathan and Marie too. Excellent, excellent job. So with that, I think we are going to wrap it up. Thank you guys so much. This has been recorded, so this will be up on the website. Stephen, on behalf of Cornet, thank you so much, Jonathan and Marie, for another excellent program. And good luck in your new space.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you all for joining.